Join in. Who's gonna do Enrique Iglesias? Enrique, who shade?
I'm gonna sing the Bamba.
Who's now what one? Someone else is one.
Well, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, it's such a joy to have you here this morning. Thank you for bringing your presence and your love and your light into this space this morning. So this morning, when Sid and I were talking about today, he's like, I saw what can you not hear me out there? I believe that didn't get turned back on after it got turned off. So we are going to turn everything back on. And then I will keep talking. Are we good now? Can you hear me out there? Not yet? It's on? We will.
Try it now.
Hello. Hey. Problem-solving animals. Wonderful. So I was saying, when Sid arrived this morning, we had a conversation about him having read my blurb that I send out saying what I'm going to be talking about. And he's like, I'm not really sure what you're going to talk about. And I was like, yeah, me too. But one thing I did say, actually, I do know what I'm going to talk about by now, but one thing I did say is something's brewing, which happened to be prophetic because something is brewing out here. We have a weather thing on the horizon. So hopefully the rain holds off until after we're done. But if we have to scramble, we will. So thank you for bringing your presence here today as we just, I'm feeling again the preciousness of the capacity we have to do this together and to be here on this planet at this time. So thank you for your presence. And we're going to anchor in this morning with some prayer. So if you're comfortable closing your eyes, we're just going to center into this day. As we allow what it feels like to be alive today just to bubble to the surface. Whatever our questions are, whatever is on our mind, we just create some space around it. So that Spirit can move and breathe as us in this time we've set aside for ourselves to just remember. And so I'm just grateful for this opportunity to know the power and the presence of the one moving and breathing and living as us, and the joy of opening to a deeper experience of that freedom and peace. And I truly know that something is brewing in all of us and that we are capable of opening to it today, allowing ourselves to be changed. And we just let ourselves go into that, and we let it be. And so it is.
Pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour your love in me, pour your love into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour your love in me, pour your love into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, shine your light on me, shine your light into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, shine your light on me, shine your light into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit, pour yourself in me, pour yourself into my heart. Whoa, wonderful Spirit.
So I've chosen very short poem, so I'm going to read it twice. This is a yet to be officially published new work by Mark Nepo coming from his new book. And I had the pleasure of getting a sneak peek of it, so I am grateful to be able to share this one with you. I'm going to read it twice. The more a meteor burns away, the brighter it gets. As it enters the atmosphere, more and more of it flakes off and burns up until there is only light. This is our journey as a spirit and a body over a lifetime. The more a meteor burns away, the brighter it gets. As it enters the atmosphere, more and more of it flakes off and burns up until there is only light. This is our journey as a spirit and a body over a lifetime. And so we take the bird sounds and the grumble of thunder and the meditation, and we let it move us wherever it moves us today.
That was a tune by John Bartlett called A Country Fly Sets Out for the Big City. I had the vision of a country fly when I was listening to that. This is Charlie Mingus tune.
Thank you, guys. So what am I talking about today? Good question, Sid. And what I realized is that I had to talk about what was brewing in me, because I can't be the only one who's feeling this. And so I don't know if you can feel that there's obviously going to have to be some more changes that happen in our lives around COVID before very long, because there's no way we can keep on going in the current trajectory. And everyone who I know who works in public health has been, sounding the alarm about, the fact that we all just need to start to be prepared for what it's going to look like, right? And it's interesting to be knowing that we've already done this once, right? And what that felt like in March of 2020, and how hard that was for so many people. I know for us it was quite scary, because we had just extended ourselves pretty far financially, and most of our income comes from short-term rentals, and in 1 minute everything was gone. And it was like, oh, what's this going to look like? And it was so interesting to sit in that space of like, how do we do this? And we could no longer be together in community like we were in with one, and that was impactful for me personally, just because this is so meaningful and important in my life. And there was just all of that, and it's really interesting to be looking at it coming from this different place that I am in right now, right? Where what that looks like. And that idea that somehow what that was over a year ago is somehow supposed to prepare us or make us feel prepared for whatever's coming next. And it's really interesting to me, because it feels like we've been on this precipice, right, of recognizing that we're in the midst of big change all together, and figuring out how to allow for that change to happen, and to not start to actually think we know what's going to happen, right? And it's so interesting, because we think, oh, we've done this before, we know what it's going to look like, and that's just not what life does, right? That's just not how it works. So Mark Nepo, in that new book I was telling you about, talks about this in I think a really interesting way. And so what he says is that we are mistakenly taught that life is other than where we are. And so we're schooled in strategies to traverse the imagined distance from here to there, and trained in the fortitude to do what is necessary to secure the treasure at the end of our quest. But almost dying in my 30s and living ever since has taught me otherwise. There is no there, only here. And so instead of trying so hard to go somewhere else and to become something else, the long walk of time insists that we turn ourselves inside out to reveal our inner beauty. Like irises and orchids and tulips, we are asked to break ground, and through love and suffering to reveal the truth of who we are and where we are, until humanity becomes its own garden. This is the spiritual journey on earth, not to strive from here to there, but to unfold from in to out. And I thought that was such a beautiful way of speaking to this kind of sense in which I'm feeling into this idea that this time of change is really not about change all of the things outside of myself, but to change me. From the inside out. From the inside out, what is it that needs to be revealed so that I can be okay in the uncertainty? So that I can be okay with all of the changes and choices and things that we are asked to encounter along the way. So I was thinking about this more deeply, and someone shared a piece with me about something I wasn't familiar with, and it really spoke to me of this kind of in-between space where we know. I mean, I'm not telling anyone anything they don't know, right? Like, there's no way that we can continue on this trajectory on a lot of different levels. And so that kind of in between where we're not there yet, we don't know what those changes are going to be and how that's going to look from this place we are now, how long it's going to last, all of that. There's this really interesting place of in between. And so this imagery really spoke to me. And so this is about hermit crabs. And so hermit crabs have this fleshy stomach and a delicate structure and the dire need for a body that can hold it, which it cannot produce independently. And so these little crustaceans make do with snail shells that they eventually outgrow. And this curious moment occurs when a hermit crab, spilling out of its shell, exceeds its own narrative and finds another shell that is a little too big. So this is where this analogy is so beautiful. Instead of trying to enter into this spacious shell, it waits patiently, sometimes for up to 8 hours, for another slightly bigger hermit crab to come along and take the bigger shell, discarding the protective home more suited to the original hermit crab. So you hear that? Like, it doesn't take the biggest one because it's available right then. It knows that it's too big for it to inhabit, but it knows that there's someone else that can. And so that it holds that space, even though it's really uncomfortable and bursting in its space, it's willing to be patient enough to know that some other hermit crab's going to come along that's going to perfectly inhabit that other shell. And so sometimes as many as 20 crabs will congregate and perform this amazing ritual called a vacancy chain. And when they are finally assembled, the crabs will quickly evacuate and exchange their shells, each climbing in the new one that best fits their new size. And I just love this imagery of what it feels like to be that first hermit crab, though, right? Like feeling like life is changing, knowing that we've outgrown the narrative, not knowing where that next space is going to be yet, and waiting patiently enough not to jump into the first thing that comes up. I don't know about you, but I know I've fallen for that trick before. But instead, waiting for the right thing, right? Right, waiting and being willing to allow that inside out movement to create a space that says, I'm going to trust that the right sized thing, that right sized shell is going to emerge. Even though it is really uncomfortable in this icky shell that I'm in right now, not feeling like I know what's going to come next. And I realize that this is a whole approach to remembering our wholeness and the impermanence of life and all of the things that I keep moving through and around in my own life recently. And this idea, like, how do we make sure that we are mindful enough to be creating from that space that recognizes that we are being asked at all times to be willing to be in that uncomfortable space long enough, exactly long enough for that thing that is right for us to inhabit next to emerge. And it always will. And we don't have to force it. But I love this idea that then when we inhabit that new shell, that we also have to realize that we will have to at some point to let that one go as well. That there isn't one set of shells that we inhabit, that it is a process that continues to have to happen over and over again. So I'm so grateful when poets share the work of other poets that move them, because I always discover new works, and I had that experience this week, and I love this poem that I was introduced to by Parker Palmer this week. And it's a poem called The Layers by a man named Stanley Kunitz, who was 95 years old when he wrote this poem, reflecting on life and what life looked like at 95, which, God willing, all of us will make it there. There's this line in here that I'm going to read several times to you because it stirs something in me. But I'm going to share the full poem first. I have walked through many lives, some of them my own, and I am not who I was. Though some principle of being abides from which I struggle not to stray. When I look behind, as I am compelled to look before I can gather strength to proceed on my journey, I see the milestones dwindling toward the horizon and the slow fires trailing from the abandoned campsites over which scavenger angels wheel on heavy wings. Oh, I have made myself a tribe out of my true affections, and my tribe is scattered. How shall the heart be reconciled to this feast of losses? In a rising wind, the manic dust of my friends who fell along the way bitterly stings my face. Yet I turn, exulting somewhat, with my will intact to go wherever I need to go. And every stone on the road precious to me. In my darkest night, when the moon was covered and I roamed through wreckage, a nimbus-clouded voice directed me. Live in the layers, not on the litter. Live in the layers, not on the litter. Though I lack the art to decipher it, no doubt the next chapter in my book of transformations is already written. I am not done with my changes. Can you feel that? I am not done with my changes. And so that line, not only that line, I'm not done with my changes, but that live in the layers, not on the litter. So for me, that has lots of different layers of meaning. But what I feel in it is this idea of letting ourselves be all of the layers of all of the shells that we have inhabited. And to allow ourselves not to get drawn into some story of worshiping the litter that is created by the empty shells that we've left. And there's some way in which we are asked as full human beings, as Mark Nepo calls us to allow ourselves to let that inside light out, to allow ourselves to be have all of these layers of our lives unfolding, and to remember that it continues even at 95. Right, that story continues and doesn't end, and I just realize that in the midst of all of this change that we're encountering together in our own unique ways, that there's an opportunity for us to really allow those kind of ourselves to be multi-layered, and to allow a recognition of the depth of beauty in which we get to encounter all of the ways in which we're being called to be present, and how each moment is different, and all of the ways in which we are asked to let go of the plans that we've made for ourselves. And so I keep saying that, right? So we're leaving in just over 8 days for Spain, hopefully, because I keep saying COVID willing, right? It's always COVID willing right now, right? And how interesting it is to have whole lives that, if we were really honest about it, always had something like that going on. We just didn't recognize it, right? There was always some chance that something would happen, something would unfold. Like, that's what life is about. those changes, and to open to this idea that what's being asked of us right now is to allow ourselves to be in shells that feel not quite the right size, while not jumping to the first thing or the first conclusion, the first idea, and allowing the right sized vision and the right next step to emerge. And even though that's uncomfortable and the unknowingness of all of it feels scary sometimes, there's this sense in which we take the opportunities that are in front of us and we let them guide us. And we also deeply understand that sense of allowing that light to emerge. And so that's why I so loved that Mark Nepo poem that I also discovered this week about turning the meteors turning fully into light. Right? As we burn through a lifetime, that's the joy and also the pain of it, of all of the things that have to be let go of. And when Mark Nepo talks about this poem, what he says is, it seems that the purpose of experience is to wear away all that is unnecessary until only that which is essential and unbreakable is left. And what a beautiful way to talk about being willing to be changed, right? I'm willing to let all of the things wear away that are unnecessary. And that requires great courage, and it requires great diligence, and it requires being uncomfortable. And it also requires this recognition that we're being asked to not just go out and change the world, but have ourselves be changed. And so every time right now when I start to get into worry or fear or a deep sense of uncertainty that starts to take away my sense of freedom, my mantra has been, change me. Whatever this is, whatever that feeling is, all I want is to be changed in some deep way so that more freedom and more peace and more love can emerge. And that's that invitation, change me. I don't need the stuff out there to change. I don't need more certainty. I don't need to know what's coming next. I don't need a plan. What I need is change me. And for me, that's been a powerful invitation into recognizing once again in a deeper way than ever before that it's all an inside job. All of it. And how we navigate the changes that we're encountering together is all an inside job. And so I just have one last thing to share with you, because it was shared with me this week, and I found it profound, especially from a perspective of someone who walks with a lot of people through a lot of different things. And this was a quote from a young woman speaking out about the way our culture talks about learning and suffering and the things we go through. And this is what she says: I really don't think I can say my suffering led me down a better path or taught me something valuable. I look back now and all I think is I absolutely did not deserve any of that. And all my lessons were possible without that suffering too. And I'm resonating with that right now in this time of change, mostly because I believe that there's an opportunity for us to step out of a cycle of suffering that we've created as an inside job, and that we don't need to encounter it that way, and we don't have to create it that way, and we don't have to keep perpetuating it that way for other people, and that there's this way in which, yes, suffering is essential. It is an essential component of life, but the story that we tell, that we have to do it that way in order for us to get somewhere, I believe is a story that hampers our remembrance of our wholeness. and keeps us from really being able to experience the fullness of life, because all we keep doing is trying to avoid the suffering to get to the other side of it. And then to try and make it make sense, we assign all this meaning and this learning when we were whole in the first place. And so when we remember that we're multi-layered, and that there's an emergence of wisdom inside of us, always there's a way in which we break this cycle of the idea that we are suffering avoidance animals, and that we try and avoid that time being squished in that shell. And we'll do anything to get to that next shell, even when it's obviously not right-sized. So there's this way in which really getting comfortable with the fullness of all of our layers allows for something else to happen. So we're going to be in the layers, not the litter. And we're going to see where that takes us. So I'm going to ask the band to come on up, because we're going to anchor this in prayer today. And as we prepare the way to sing into our prayer, I'm just going to invite you to think about maybe something that's going on in your life where there's some uncertainty. Maybe you can feel that your shell is not right-sized at the moment, and you're wondering when that next shell is going to show up. And we're going to see if allowing Spirit and prayer to move this allows for the peace we're looking for. So please join me as we sing.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. Heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
Our prayer of love today is a prayer of remembrance of all of the layers and love that we are. And I just recognize that there are deep changes moving through time and space and through us, and that within each and every one of us is emerging that next set of transformations that lead to deeper peace and even more love and wisdom and grace. And I just recognize that transformation continues to evolve as we each individually commit to the change that is calling to us. And we allow that vision to emerge, including that next right step whenever it is right for it to emerge. And we are willing to have the patience to be in that in-between space, knowing that the emergence will happen and not needing to know when or what it's going to look like or whether we will feel like we're prepared. I just know that Spirit knows what it is doing, and so I allow for it to move in each and every one of us in a deeper way. And I welcome even deeper layers of freedom and love. and I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Here's a tune by Thelonious Monk. One, two, three. Thank you.
I think we may have just made it before the storm, so we might be scurrying around here just to get everything wrapped up. Yes, we will be scurrying. Because who knows what's going to happen. But I'm so grateful that you were here today. So just reminding you, we have one more service, and then we're going to take summer vacation for 2 weeks. And so I'll see you next Sunday, and then the two after that, we will be traveling, COVID willing. So there are baskets in the trees if you would like to make a contribution here in person. There's also way to give online on our website, onespiritualcenter.org. And I believe that we are ready to sing.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People, get ready for the train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith. Hear that diesel humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. People, get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key, open the doors and board on. There's room for all that love the most. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord and we can feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
And we have one last blessing to sing to one another.
Go forth and walk in beauty and know that we are one.